The Democrats have a socialist insurgency in their midst. Attorney General Barr authorizes election investigations. Is the Logan Act still a law? And Biden is selling out to tech oligarchs. Welcome, my friends, to the Buck Sexton Show. It didn't take long, did it? Democrats can't get along for very long because they have to coordinate a fraud, a dishonesty against the American people, which is the pretense that the Democrat Party does not want things that it clearly does. So let's understand this. As we look right now at the battle that is playing out between Pelosi and AOC, really, which is remarkable, isn't it? You have a woman who should have retired years ago, who is a ruthless and power-mad limousine liberal, versus among the dumbest members of Congress, but also the most powerful, which is stunning. But all you have to be as a Democrat, as we see with AOC, is a proper demagogue. Say what gets the mob riled up, use wokeness and far-left identity politics and socialism to convince people that what they would know from history, what they would know from actually understanding not just the past of this country, but of many other countries, is that collectivism and central planning, the twin pillars of failure for socialism, do not get better. It will not work. It will not make us happier, healthier, safer. No, it just empowers those who are seeking exactly that and make sure that the rest of us have less freedom, fewer decisions of our own to make. Now, Pelosi can't go forward with that agenda right away. She's supposed to be part of this old guard of Democrats, along with Joe Biden, who make the promise, implicit and explicit, to the American people that don't worry, we're not as crazy as those socialists. We've got control over the people within our party, the AOC wing, the squad, and Bernie Sanders. Let's understand, it's not just an age thing. It's an ideology thing. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are also two of the most powerful members of Congress on the Democrat side, and they're very much ideologically aligned on this. But what you have is a socialist insurgency from within the Democrat Party's ranks. And now that they've gotten at least to this stage where they believe they've won the election, although states have not certified, states are still counting, as we know, they have to come out with, how do you make your radical left-wing base happy while not showing the American people from the very beginning that they were essentially swindled? That good old blue-collar Joe, who you know you can trust, Joe Biden's not going to let anything bad happen to this country. That blue-collar Joe is really a red, or is going to do the bidding of the Reds, the commies, the left. That's what they're trying to avoid at this stage, at least. They have to wait until they have the media do a whole lot of softening up of the battlefield for their more left-wing ideas, convince us that, well, when Biden makes a turn toward, let's say, Medicare for all. I mean, Joe Biden talked about this health care plan all the time. What exactly? All they do is just say, it'll protect pre-existing conditions. No joke, period. That's all I remember him ever saying. What exactly makes it better? What does it do? Oh, he's going to create a public option. A public option is just a different approach to getting us to Medicare for all. The way the Democrats will structure it, the public option will be an enormous net loss, right? So it's not going to be self-sustaining as a program. And it's just going to be taxpayer dollars going in to shore it up. And so it becomes, effectively, is a much more expensive version of Medicaid without any income requirements, or with much higher level income requirements. So people who are, let's say, making the average household income will qualify for this public option plan. How many businesses do you think will throw off their private healthcare plans for their own employees because of the enormous savings? Why do they want to carry that cost? They're not going to want to do that. They're going to say, okay, go with the public option. That's why we all pay taxes, right? So understand that the Democrats are just trying to figure out how they sell now a vision of the future to the American people that isn't scary, but in the long term, they want to do the same things that AOC and the socialist left wants. So it's not that Nancy Pelosi has some big ideological objection to the kinds of socialism that are being pushed here. It's not that. It's that Nancy Pelosi is trying to keep this whole thing together so she can be elected Speaker of the House. And you'll notice that Republicans don't have this problem. Republicans don't have some wing, some faction, a very powerful. We're not talking about 3 or 4 people we're talking that no one's ever heard of in Congress. When you look at the Squad, AOC, and the socialist insurgency from within the Democrat ranks, it's among the most powerful. From a media angle, it's the most potent thing they have. And Republicans, for their part, argue about tactics, but overall, the strategy for America is the same. There's not a huge wing of the GOP. When you talk about a conservative caucus, you talk about those members of the GOP specifically in the or rather of the House specifically that are in the GOP. They don't try to push for ideas that are radically at odds with or contradict what Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are saying. They're all just trying to row the boat in the same direction. Democrats have a different issue. They have a different situation. And it's because part of what they're doing is incrementalism toward socialism. That's the Pelosi approach. And if you look over the last 20 years, you have more and more government spending, government control, government involvement in healthcare. And they understand that as people become increasingly aware of what the long-term plan is, the government taking more of your money and controlling more of your life. That's what the Democrats offer. Central planning and collectivism. That is the central ethos of what they're trying to do. It's just a question of the speed, right? Joe Biden on fracking is a perfect example of this. You say you're going to ban fracking next year, and you're going to lose key states. So Joe Biden had to back away from that, even though you got to say that to make the left-wing base happy with you, because they really believe that fracking, which is an enormous blessing for all of us, for this country, for our economy, but they've been led to believe that fracking is going to destroy their drinking water and ruin the planet and all kinds of stuff, right? So what does Joe Biden do? What's the compromise you get from the old guard Democrats, right? The old guard Democrats. They say, well, we're going to ban fracking in 50 years. Now, that's essentially what they have to say right now, or 30 years, whatever it is that Joe Biden said, right? That's what they have to say right now to try to win at the national level. To fool, unfortunately, enough people in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and these other states that we've seen, and I told you all along, it'd be about a half a dozen states, it'd be a very close election. So while not yet can I say that I was wrong on who won the election, because we don't know, but if you look at the overall trajectory of this race, I've got to say it was very close. It was a half a dozen states, and I did say he'd win Florida and Ohio, and he did. I still think he's probably going to end up with Pennsylvania. That's what I think the game changer will be. But nonetheless, Democrats have to lie about who they really are and what they're really trying to do in order to win those states, in order to win persuadable voters. And so that's why this socialist insurgency from within their ranks is problematic when they say things like, let's make Elizabeth Warren Treasury Secretary. You know, AOC was putting this out on social media today. Let's have Bernie Sanders be, I don't know, the Secretary of Defense. That would be interesting. We're not going to war ever. Actually, that would be nice, but and then we'd also have a Department of Peace, right? He'd come up with all kinds of ideas that would not make a lot of sense, but the left will go along with it because Bernie Sanders is their favorite right now, although AOC will soon be taking that over if she has not already. But the Democrats now are playing with fire, and they know it, because we just had an election, and they promised us a return to normalcy, and that Joe Biden with his big, slimy politician grin, you know, it's really what this guy's whole life has just been about, sounding the right way and having the right smile. You know, I'm just one of the folks. riding my choo-choo to work, Joe Biden. That's really been his career. And if before he even takes office, if he takes office, I don't want to have to keep saying that. This election is not over, but we'll have updates for you on that. But really, in the meantime, they can't let you know that the Democrat Party is a socialist party now. It's just a question of the speed they plan on getting there. It's just a matter of tactical differences right now, and that has to do mostly with how fast they want to go. But they're looking at the same destination. That is what Nancy Pelosi's trying to hold back right now. And, of course, she wants, for her own purposes, she wants 2 more years as Speaker of the House. And this woman cannot get enough. Isn't it fascinating? These politicians, they don't tire of this. I think they become obsessed with it. I think Joe Biden is just another example of that. They need the attention. They need the power. They don't view this as public service. It's self-service. It's helping themselves and pretending to be helping other people. That's really what the goal is. And that's true of many politicians, and it's true on both sides of the aisle. But it's particularly egregious among Democrats like this. I think it's funny. People keep saying, I see this all over the internet. Oh, what's Trump going to do now? First of all, I think Trump is going to continue to run, meaning, one, he's going to fight this battle to the end to see if, in fact, he really did win this election. And 2, I think that the president isn't going anywhere. I think he realizes that he has a political movement now to steward. And even if he did decide that he was going to pass this on perhaps to his children, to Eric and Don Jr. and Ivanka to continue on, which is a distinct possibility. Yeah, the guy's going to go back to being a billionaire who does whatever he wants and plays a lot of golf. Yeah, he'll be fine. But people like Pelosi, people like Joe Biden, they don't know who they are without this. I mean, if Meet the Press isn't asking them to be on once in a while, they feel like, what purpose do they really have? And so there's that wing of the party, and then there's the radical wing of the socialists with the Democrat Party who understand the game. They know they need that apparatus of the elites along with them. And this is often the case. If you look at the history of revolutions in various states, you have that intelligentsia, the hardline intelligentsia, and they'll often try to work with big government, big business. They'll work within the established structure if they can to put themselves in power. They usually don't push them out. They don't overturn that entire established order. They'd rather co-opt it. And this is the struggle that you see going on right now with the Democrat Party. And all I can tell you is it's only been a matter of days since the election, and we already see that some of the central themes, central promises of Joe Biden's, whatever it is right now, temporary lead, hopefully, in the Electoral College, was a result of misrepresenting what the Democrats are all about now. They have a socialist insurgency that they cannot really control because that's where the Democrat Party is going, friends. And we all see it. I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and you better pray this crime never happens to you. Here's how it works. The bad guys find your home's title online because it's there. It's in the cloud. It's stored on servers. Then they use a quit claim deed to kick you off your home's title, put themselves on, and start taking out loans against your home. You often won't find out about this until the payment demands arrive or perhaps even a foreclosure notice in the mail. You got to take action. The usual identity theft services do not protect you. You have to go with my friends that I trust to help with this problem specifically at Home Title Lock. They'll create a virtual barrier around your home's title. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com, enter the promo code RADIO, and you'll get 30 free days of protection. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. You can also check online to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it yet. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO.
The people who push this hysteria could not have more egg on their face than they do right now. None of their demands became law. None of them. The Speaker of the House did not get to personally rewrite election law. And yet, because of the sensible bipartisan steps that some of us championed, our defenses and countermeasures proved to be in radically better shape than back in 2016. So it's time, let's talk about where we are now. According to preliminary results, voters across the nation elected and re-elected Republican senators to a degree that actually stunned prognosticators. Likewise, the American people seem to have reacted to House Democrats' radicalism and obstruction by shrinking the Speaker's majority and electing more Republicans.
And yet, here we are being told by the media that this was a resounding success and shows how popular Democrat ideas are. Of course, that's absurd. All that we had here was the perfect storm of unbelievable, unhinged, universal media hatred of Trump. I mean, the orange man bad menace. You know, that was what was really such an issue here. Orange man bad. He's so terrible. And all of a sudden, we look around and see what ideas are Democrats really running on? What, defund the police? Does someone want to try that again? We want to have that debate one more time? Defund the police? No, it turns out that white suburban women who we were told by pollsters hated Trump. No, actually, they did pretty well for Trump this time around. That was one of the reasons the polls were so far off. Because when people see riots on the streets and a party of abject cowards or people that are just egging this on, they like this idea of the riots in the streets. That's what the Democrats were all summer. They didn't call it out. We could all see it. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are very, very delicate whenever they touch on the issue of the Democrat riots and Antifa. Joe Biden will not call out Antifa. It's just an idea, man. It's not, period. It's not really a organization that's a domestic terrorist organization. That's what they'll tell us. But the good news is that we have Mitch McConnell here, who has been holding the line, has done a fantastic job on judges. And I know it's easy to pick on Mitch for some things, and it's fair to say that he's an establishment guy. I know people in the past used to call him a rhino. I look at Mitch McConnell and say, guys, he has not backed down an inch on judges, on putting constitutionalist judges all across federal courts up to the Supreme Court, and has never once on those issues had a Jeff Flake moment where it's, I don't know, I'm scared, I don't want people to say mean things. So give Mitch McConnell some credit. And if we win these Georgia Senate seats for Loeffler and Perdue, then at least we'll be in a position to blunt the worst aspects, the most socialist and collectivist aspects of the Democrat agenda going forward. And I think that's an important place for us to be in, because otherwise we're going to have some real problems. And even Mitch, who's a very, shall we say, we call him Cocaine Mitch as a joke. He's a clear thinker. He's a pretty calm guy. He points out that the media doesn't get to declare who won the election. Play 13.
If any major irregularities occurred this time of a magnitude that would affect the outcome, then every single American should want them to be brought to light. And if Democrats feel confident they have not occurred, they should have no reason to fear any extra scrutiny. We have the tools and institutions we need to address any concerns. The president has every right to look into allegations and to request recounts under the law. And notably, the Constitution gives no role in this process to wealthy media corporations. The projections and commentary of the press do not get veto power over the legal rights of any citizen, including the President of the United States.
That's critical. Doesn't matter how many news organizations call this, they're just giving you their analysis. Until the states certify, until these legal challenges are done, the process is not done. Some additional good news from the preventing the country from collapsing into socialism and misery front. We have Senator Joe Manchin, who is technically a Democrat in West Virginia. But as all eyes right now are turning, well, at least anyone concerned about Congress will be looking at these Georgia Senate seats that are, involved in the runoff for January 5th, you have Manchin already saying, now this is just his word. Who knows? He could change his mind. We'll have to see. But Manchin saying pretty clearly right now that he's not going along, even if there's a slim Democrat majority, he's not going along with their agenda in the Senate. Play 3.
When they talk about whether it be packing the courts or ending the filibuster, I will not vote to do that. I will not vote to pack the courts, I think, and I will not vote to end the filibuster. Brett, this system, the Senate, was so unique body in the world. It was made to work together in a bipartisan way. And once you start breaking down those barriers, then you lose every reason that we are the institution that we are, the most deliberate body. So I want to lay those fears to rest. That won't happen because I will not be the 50th Democrat voting to end that filibuster or to basically stack the court. And then all the other things you're hearing about, Brett, also is defund the police. I don't know of any of the Democrats in the caucus that are for defunding the police. We're not for that whatsoever. And when they talk about basically Medicare for all, we can't even pay for Medicare for some. Doesn't make any sense at all. We've got to fix the Affordable Care Act we have, and I think our moderate Republicans will work with us to now repair what needs to be repaired.
There's still sanity out there, folks, even among Democrats. It exists. It's there. There is still a reasonable way to approach political questions. There's still ways to keep these fights within the system instead of trying to tear it down. Isn't it fascinating how for 4 years Democrats have leveled this allegation of Trump undermining our institutions? They just parrot it. I mean, they just do exactly as they're told. They mouth the preferred slogans of the DNC as if they're, reciting Socrates in the Agora. I mean, it's madness, this crap that they say all the time. And they'll say he's undermining our institutions. And then you'll say, in what way? Well, he did this thing and we don't like it. Well, okay, you had a universal injunction from the Ninth Circuit, which is full of left-wing activist judges, but all right. And then Trump went to court. That's within the system. You see, the same way that they use fascism, that the libs use fascism now as a term for anything they don't like, anyone they don't like, fascism, fascist. They've divorced it from its actual meaning as a term. But in the same way that they will throw that around, they also now will continue to talk about undermining institutions that the other side is doing while completely forgetting, ignoring, pretending that it's not their side that is actually engaged in the explicit undermining of institutions. Democrats are the ones that want to transform the way the Senate does business. They're the ones that want to pack the courts. They're the ones that are always trying to get new states added to stack the Senate for themselves, right? They're trying to do all of these things. This is changing the rules of the game. What we do, what's going on right now with these legal challenges, that's all within the system. That's within the game. They just don't like it. So they say it's undermining institutions. I mean, there's a fundamental dishonesty to much of the liberal critique of Trumpism. And I mean, apart from the Trump is a racist and a white nationalist and all these other horrible, really unjustifiable things that they say about the president, but they are not going to stop doing that. But I mean, even based on the actions. What was the horrible transgression of the Trump administration for these 4 years? It's all smoke and mirrors, friends. There's nothing there. What did he do that was so awful? They'll always resort to things that he said that they don't like, that usually they completely misrepresent or just outright lie about. The worst thing that Trump did in his 4 years, according to the left, when you push them on it, always boils down to words they don't like. It's not really action. It's not things that he did. What, the unnecessary war that he started that killed so many people? No, didn't do that. In fact, was always trying to stop us from doing that. You see, now even looks like the deep state has a problem with the president trying to end our military occupation in Afghanistan, which is going on 20 years. Outrageous. Should be done. Our guys should be home. That's it. Enough. Enough's enough. But it's always about the words that Trump uses, and that alone is enough of a transgression that they think it justifies saying anything about this guy. Whatever they have to say about Trump, they will say. And whatever they have to do to stop him is also inherently moral in their minds. So that's why this attack on institutions thing that they always say, I turn around and point out to them, who's really undermining institutions? Who weaponized the FBI? Who destroyed public confidence in career civil servants at the DOJ? You know who they want, according to AOC and that wing? You know who they want to be the Attorney General under Biden? Sally Yates. Oh, that's great. Let's bring a Russia collusion fraudster and put her at the top of the government. Okay, that's a great idea. That's going to make people really feel like the DOJ is about law and not a political machine. But they just said these things because they wanted what they wanted. There was never any principle underneath any of it, as we continue to see. So as long as there is enough people in the Senate who are not completely insane on the Democrat side, which looks like just one, but as long as we have an ability to prevent them from getting to that bare majority to implement all these changes, we're going to have just really 2 years of gridlock, I think, which is, assuming Biden wins, a good thing. Right? Assuming Biden comes out at the end of this, there'll be very little that gets done, and people will be able to make their own determinations about what a complete buffoon Joe Biden is. It's amazing. It's really depressing, I'll be honest with you, that this guy is in a position where he may be the next president of the United States, that he's the likely next president of the United States. It's sad that we have a country of 320 million people, and this guy who's just a constant loser. I will say this, he is a bit of a beacon of hope insofar as you can be an intense mediocrity like Joe Biden in every way, but if you just stay in it long enough, and then also probably have no scruples or self-awareness, but if you stay in long enough, you might get what you want. It's definitely true in media. A lot of people that are in the media that have big, successful careers, they've just been in the game a long time. People have heard them enough for enough time, watched them enough for enough time where it just becomes normal, and they go, yeah, so-and-so, I've been watching, I've been listening or whatever for 20 years or something, so I got to keep doing it. You go, really? You think your local news anchor is some kind of a genius that you should be listening to all the time? I don't know about that, but some people think so. Staying in it, often all you need to do to win it. That's where Biden is. But Biden's declarations of this being over are premature, friends. Play 15.
This election is over. It's time to put aside the partisanship and the rhetoric that designed to demonize one another. It's time to end the politicization of basic, responsible public health steps like mask wearing and social distancing. We have to come together to heal the soul of this country so that we can effectively address this crisis.
We're doing mask wearing and social distancing. You utter moron. We're doing it. It's being done all over the place. It's been done for months and months and months and months. Virus still spreads. Big surge over the summer. Virus still spreads. More masking, more social distancing. Where are these studies based on actual trials of how effective this is? Isn't it fascinating that you see with the vaccine, that's science. They're promising an outcome. They're promising percentages. They're producing data. They're opening into challenges. And there's credibility and accountability on the line. That's science. This mask stuff, this is just emotion, friends. This is theory. It may be true, but they're using the theory as this battering ram all the time for anybody who wants to say, hold on a second. The government has what power to do this now? And this is on all of us? Shut up, wear a mask, or else. This is what we're always being told. By people that, as we know, when no one's looking, they often don't wear a mask themselves. I'm not giving... Anyway, Biden said the election's over. I'm not conceding that at all. We shouldn't concede that. The Trump campaign's fighting on. That's what they should be doing, and I'm glad to see they are.
position is clear. We want to protect the franchise of the American people. We want an honest, accurate, lawful count. We want maximum sunlight. We want maximum transparency. We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, I can't in good countenance continue showing you this. I want to make sure that maybe they do have something to back that up, but that's an explosive charge to make, that the other side is effectively rigging and cheating. If she does bring proof of that, of course, we'll take you back. So far, she has started saying right at the outset, welcoming fraud, welcoming illegal voting. Not so fast. We'll have more after this.
What the heck does Neil Cavuto of Fox News think he's doing here? What is that? Some kind of weird virtue signaling for the moderate rhino types that are watching him? Explain this to me. Kayleigh McEnany is the White House press secretary, and she is establishing the position of this White House and also of this campaign simultaneously, that they need to find out what happened here, that they're going through the process, and she's making a claim that the Democrats, she didn't say they have committed fraud, she said they welcome fraud, which is a way of saying they make it much easier to commit fraud because they eliminate all of the election safeguards and procedures that ever come up. They don't want voter ID. They don't want signature matching when they can get away with it. They don't, they want maximum ballot harvesting. They want mail-in ballot. They want all these things that make it really difficult to see if anybody either cheated or also if there were just mistakes that were made that could change the outcome of the election. And he's cutting away from it. What is going on? You're already seeing there are people in media who felt like they couldn't go against the Trump movement for professional reasons. And now that they get the first glimpse of, oh, maybe it'll be better for me to walk away from this now and start to trash the Trump movement. I don't want to end up on the Trump Accountability Project website, right? I don't want to be somebody who can't go and can't go move on. Look at someone like Shepard Smith. The guy went to CNBC. Nobody cares. This guy was lucky to be at Fox News. He won the lottery to be at Fox News when he was and as long as he was. People are like, oh, Shep Smith's so great. What? No, he's not. The guy does a job that 1,000 other people could do. You wouldn't even know the difference. And he's a lib. And he got away with being a lib at Fox for a long time. That is completely unbeknownst to me. Other than the fact that there are a lot of liberals on the Fox News staff, right? The people that are part of the news division. There are a lot of liberals there. And somehow they're able to make waves and even push around the opinion shows when the opinion shows are what makes all the money. And I got news for you. You get rid of the opinion shows in primetime, Fox News is a different place, revenue and ratings-wise, the next day. You try to be a news channel? Are you going to be a less America-hating version of CNN? I really mean this. What is Neil Cavuto doing? What does he think he's accomplishing here? Why did Chris Wallace ask Donald Trump after 4 years of being president during a presidential election if he would denounce white supremacy and white nationalism? What is this? We all know what it is. They want to be part of the, I'm one of the good ones club. I'm not somebody that was doing all of Trump's dirty work for him or something. Which, are you a journalist or an opinion host? Because cutting off the White House press secretary when she's giving a public statement because you think it's it's unsupported or whatever it is. That's an editorial judgment. What I think is so fascinating is so many of these people who think they're the serious journos out there don't really understand what journalism is. If the White House press secretary is giving a speech, that's news, that's covered, that's it. You don't do, we're going to cut away from this because I don't think your delicate ears could handle this. What the heck is that? And look, all she's talking about here is getting answers. She wasn't making unsupportable declarations. She's saying this is what we think, and we're trying to find out if it's true. Play 17.
There were 682,479 ballots counted in Philadelphia, in Allegheny County, that there were no poll watchers allowed to watch. It's the job of the media to ask the question why, because all we are asking for is truth, transparency, and sunlight here. That is all we are asking for. And sadly, we are asking the questions many of you should.
And that's the problem, of course. Truth, transparency, sunlight. I mean, the Democrats, when it comes to elections, they're like vampires. Sunlight melts them. They can't handle this. They don't want people to know what really went on in these places. Here's what's so funny. Notice how there's no counter-accusation from Democrats about Republican fraud, because they're never going to find any. I mean, it's just the truth. They know. I mean, it's just not in our political culture. We don't riot. The left riots. We don't commit election fraud. The left commits election fraud. Now, these are not hard and fast rules for which there are never any exceptions, but it's a generally applicable rule. That's what you could call it, generally applicable. Just like they boycott, we don't. They shut down free speech, we don't. They believe in deplatforming, we don't, right? You go down the list. They don't even make the natural counterclaim that you would think would come up in a huge election like this. No, Republicans, because if they said that we committed fraud, you know what that would mean? It would mean that they must be on our team when it comes to asking for accuracy and sunlight and transparency. Oh, okay, you guys think that we cheated? No, they just want the election result that they've created, that they've already declared to stand. They don't care about anything else. But it's not even they don't even bring it up. They don't even say, well, you guys cheated in the way that they cheat. In 2016, what was the story? Oh, Russia cheated on our behalf. Not even that Trump voters, it was Russia cheated for Trump. You see that? Ooh, interesting.